Muy buenos días a todos. Los saluda Erika Ruiz, gerente de eventos de CANATUR, y en nombre de la Cámara Nacional de Turismo les doy la más cordial bienvenida a la conferencia de hoy, recordándole a todos ustedes que el webinar se dará en idioma inglés y el tema a tratar es certificaciones y sellos internacionales de turismo sostenible, con el apoyo del programa suizo de promoción de las importaciones SIPO. Antes de dar paso al señor Víctor Sarabia, representante en Perú de CIPO, quien nos brindará unas palabras introductorias al tema, solicitamos a todos los participantes mantener sus audios silenciados y cámaras apagadas. Las preguntas que deseen realizar sobre el tema que se expondrá podrán colocarlas en el chat y serán respondidas al finalizar la exposición. Muchísimas gracias a todos por su participación. Víctor, bienvenido.
Gracias, Erika. Buenos días con todos. A nombre del programa suizo de promoción de importaciones, le damos también la cordial bienvenida y tomando en cuenta esta alianza estratégica que tenemos con CANATUR y considerando los preparativos también para el Perú Travel Market, uno de los más importantes eventos en el sector. Tenemos esta oportunidad de contar con Mirjam Moine, que es una de las consultoras expertas en temas de turismo dentro del programa a nivel global. Y también presente con nosotros Marisabel Rodríguez, que es nuestra gerente de promoción de exportaciones, a cargo también de las actividades de promoción, ¿no? Básicamente, saludarlos y comentarles que la experiencia que tenemos con Miriam es muy interesante. Espero que aprovechen mucho esta sesión. Ella ha trabajado como consultora en temas de turismo para agencias de cooperación alemanas y de otros países, en países como Ecuador, Nepal, Uzbekistán, también como colaboradora de la Agencia Alemana de Cooperación Técnica y actualmente forma parte del staff de expertos en temas de turismo de CIPO. Espero que esta sesión sea muy provechosa. Good morning, Mirjam. Thank you for your contributions in this session. So, I hope that this is enjoyed by everyone. So, please go ahead.
Gracias, Víctor. Y hola y muy buenos días. Muchas gracias, CANATUR, también a Víctor para la introducción. Por mi parte, también quiero darles la bienvenida a este seminario web. Y es estupendo tener tanta gente entre el público. De realidad, no suelo hablar con tanta gente todos los días. Y ese gran número de participantes también demuestra un gran interés por el tema del turismo sostenible y las certificaciones. Well, now I change to English because otherwise this webinar will take some 2 hours instead of maximum 1 hour. I'm Miriam from Switzerland, and I've been working in tourism also in Peru, so I know the country, I know the industry, and some of you might have seen me before, some years ago, when I used to work for the former SIPO mandate. So it's great to be back and to have the honor to present in this webinar of CANATUR in collaboration with SIPO. Well, let's start talking about sustainability and sustainable certification, which is a very important topic which we have to cover today. And because we have a very diverse audience from different sectors, from different tourism sectors, different levels of know-how about sustainability and certification, I think we first need to create a common understanding and a common ground of sustainable tourism and sustainable tourism certification. So that's the first part of this session. And also would like to give you some information about trends and developments in the field of sustainable tourism and certification. I will give you some insights into these topics and what you need to be aware of. Well, the core of this webinar, and as already mentioned before and also in the invitation, is about sustainable tourism certifications and seals. So this is the core part of that session, and I will give you guidance on how to select the most suitable certification schemes. And we also focus on trends and developments in the field of certification, sustainable tourism certification schemes. I have selected some certification schemes, labels, which are relevant for the European tourism industry, but which also have a footprint in Peru or in South American countries. Part 3, and we can only talk about that part if time allows. Otherwise, you will just get the slides with all the information, which is also useful. In the third part, we would like to start about how you can start a sustainability journey. How can you implementing sustainability practices? How can you take and start actions? Just to make it clear, we will not be able to touch on everything. Sustainable tourism and also sustainable tourism certification is a very broad topic. And we are not able to go in to cover everything in detail. But you will have this PDF, the presentation, sent to you with a lot of resources and links, websites where you find further information. But as I said, we can only talk on certain topics, not on everything, and we can't go too deep here. Right, let's start. And I would like to put one guiding question as the main topic of this presentation. How can we make tourism more sustainable? Actually, 3 guiding questions, which are why tourism matters, why tourism must change, and how we as actors in the tourism industry can contribute to a more sustainable tourism industry. So how to make tourism more sustainable is at the center of this session. The tourism sector has seen an enormous growth of sustainability standards and certifications globally, and it can be difficult for destination managers and tourism business owners to decide on the best course of action regarding sustainable tourism certification. It is a very difficult topic, to be honest with you, which we are covering today. Certification, and especially in the field of sustainable tourism, can be very confusing, and it's also changing a lot. But let's now dive into the topic of sustainable tourism and certification. Well, the definition of sustainable tourism is complicated, and there's no single universally accepted understanding of the term. There are new terms which have emerged in recent years, like regenerative travel, you might have heard of good tourism and responsible tourism. And these terms are being used interchangeably across the industry. But let's first look at how is the UNWTO defining sustainable tourism. And they define sustainable tourism as tourism that takes full account of its current and future economic, social, and environmental impacts, addressing the needs of visitors, the industry, the environment, and host communities. So, sustainable tourism refers to types of travel where the environmental, the social, and economic impacts of tourism are factored in, and where relevant adjustments are made to minimize these negative consequences. It considers the needs of travelers, but also the needs of host communities, local businesses, and the natural world. One thing I would like to highlight, or I would like to point out, is that sustainable tourism is not a market segment or a specific niche. It's not a separate segment. It is to be understood as a transversal to any form of tourism. So that's why you see in this chart, in this graphic, sustainable tourism not as a separate segment. Sustainable tourism can be included in nature tourism, in cultural tourism, in health tourism, in adventure tourism, any sorts of tourism, and it is everybody's business, whether government, business support organizations, destinations, or tourism businesses. It also must be lived by your team and become institutional and an institutional culture, and it needs to be mainstreamed into your business, your organization, or your BSO. So again, sustainable tourism does not refer to a niche or to a specific segment. All forms of tourism have the responsibility and potential of becoming sustainable. Let's look at some consumer trends and demands from the travelers. We afterwards will look at what are the trends and developments when we look at the tourism industry, looking at the tour operators in Europe, for example. What we can say, and specifically after the COVID-19 pandemic, is that travelers are demanding more and more sustainability. So sustainable tourism has a lot of potential, and it is becoming more and more mainstream. Travelers also expect the tourism sector to take responsibility. One thing is, for example, what we see is that they're reducing the number of long-haul trips. But when they travel long-haul, they stay longer and they stay local. Travelers are also looking for more low-impact activities, which are less harmful to the planet, such as outdoor sports, rural tourism, wildlife watching, etc. Travelers would like to more fully engage with the local communities. So, for example, through community-based tourism activities. They're looking for more authentic, unique, and small group tourism experiences. Now, let's look at some trends when it comes to where do travelers want to stay and how to avoid over-tourism or overcrowding. First of all, we have this Booking.com's 2022 report. This is one of the latest research and reports, and we see that sustainable tourism has moved up the priority list for travelers. We see that 1/3 of travelers they travel outside of the peak season, and they go to less popular travel destinations. So if you look at where did they travel in the past, but also if we look at where do they want to travel in the future, like in the next 12 months, what are the future plans? And a growing number says they want to avoid popular tourist destinations and attractions. And more travelers want to choose alternatives to their preferred destinations. So we see a change there. And looking at where travelers want to stay, over 70% want to stay in sustainable properties. And the reasons for that, they vary. Some of them want to help to reduce the impact on the environment, and they would like to use more locally and authentic accommodations, for example. And many of them believe that sustainable properties treat the communities better. And one important thing, and here we're already coming towards the topic of certifications, is that almost 60% of the people surveyed in this research of Booking.com, almost 60% of these travelers would feel better about staying in a particular accommodation if they knew it had a sustainable certification. Let's keep that in mind. Now, to summarize, travelers want travel to be green, benefit the planet, as well as to be good, benefit the local people. And they're even willing to pay more. And one survey shows that they are willing to pay even 40% more to make their travels more sustainable. At the same time, we see the travelers don't think there's enough choice or ways to search for sustainable tourism products. So despite this interest of travelers to give back and to use more sustainable options, they don't know how or where to find activities or tours. So they don't know how to give back to the communities. So there we see quite a gap. And we also see that companies suggest they want companies, so us, you, but also the tour operators in Europe, for example, to suggest activities and places to visit with positive impact, which are not harming the environment. And we see that some OTAs and travel companies, that they need to make it easier for them to make responsible choices. And several OTAs, like Booking.com's, they're already going into that direction. So there's progress we see, which is made. And we'll talk about the travel sustainable program of Booking.com a bit later in this session. So there's to offer the travelers better options, more options to choose sustainable tourism providers, accommodations, tours, activities, etc. Now, if we look at the tourism, the travel industry, or if we look at the B2B channel, the tour operators, travel agencies from Europe, also the travel industry is increasingly demanding sustainability from its suppliers, so from you as suppliers to tour operators from Europe, for example. So these tour operators from Europe are increasing their offers of sustainable tours, accommodations, and activities. So they're more and more including sustainable options like eco accommodations, community-based tourism activities, etc. So they're more and more interested in this type of tours when they look at their portfolio. One thing is that most tour operators at the moment, I must say, don't require certification, but it is becoming more and more important. And we also have this sustainable supply chain legislation in Europe, which is already active for different sectors, not only tourism, and especially only for the larger companies at the moment, but it will in future also affect smaller tourism business. One short thing about another latest development, and a very recent one, is that the European Union institutions, they have finalized a new law in September, so just a few weeks ago, which is enacting a sweeping ban to combat the misleading of its citizens through false claims of sustainability. So this law will ban companies from claiming that their products are climate neutral. This is not just tourism specific, but it also impacts tourism industry in the European Union, but also have an impact on your businesses in Peru. So it's also about the food and other sectors. And the new law will also firm up rules around environmental claims, which will have to be backed by proof or recognized performance. So widespread product affixes like eco and natural will need to be backed by solid evidence. So you would need to be careful in your marketing message. Which words and expressions are you using? And it applies, of course, at the moment in the European Union. It can also have relevance for businesses outside of the European Union in future. So to summarize, or what you should keep in mind is only say eco, sustainable, carbon neutral, if you can prove it, ideally with a certification, but not only. And here the example also from Intrepid, they have been warned or they have to take off their advert, which was saying this tour in Egypt is planet friendly. So there was quite a big thing, and you find also more information in the sources what has happened there. So it's like also these companies have been or are affected for these things. So what I also want to say, people, the consumers, but also the industry is becoming more and more aware of sustainability issues and claims, false claims people do or companies do when we talk about climate neutral products or tours or eco sustainability, etc. Now, how can we as part of the tourism industry make tourism more sustainable and more responsible? We all have responsibility, be it as a national tourism board, like from Peru, as an association like CANATUR, and especially as businesses, of which we have many here in the audience. And especially the tourism businesses, and for example, the tour operators, they have a big influence in the wider tourism value chain because you link the travelers to the destinations and other suppliers. Now we're coming slowly towards the main part of this session, the standards, the sustainable tourism certifications. As I said, I have selected some standards, some certification schemes, which are relevant for South Africa with a footprint also in Peru or other Latin American countries, and which are relevant for the European tourism industry. So it's not about labels which are relevant for the US market or for the Chinese market. The focus is on Europe here, and especially if you want to access European tourism market, you would need to be aware of these certification schemes, and also these schemes are available. Most of these schemes are available for you, can be accessible for Peruvian or South American countries. And at the end of the day, you need to decide which certification is most suitable for you. I can't tell you which one you should go for. It's your decision. and also give you a guideline on how can you select the most suitable certification scheme for your business. And another important thing is we should start to engage and to continuously improve our sustainable activities or actions and practices. And this is much more important than just to be certified. So it's a message I would like to have get across. And now, before we go deeper into the topic of certification, let's have a look at what is actually certification. Now, certification is a voluntary process where an independent third party checks and verifies whether there is full compliance to the criteria. And after successful audit, the destination or also the business is awarded a certificate. They can use a badge, a seal, or logo to communicate their earned sustainability credentials. The certification is typically valid for a defined period of time, after which recertification is required. So usually it's 1 year, or in some cases 2. In very few cases, it's more than 2 years. To summarize, it's voluntary. It needs an independent audit by a third party, and you get like a logo or a seal, which you can use to communicate your achievement. Now, as I said at the beginning, the certification landscape is confusing, and not only for the B2B partners or the tour operators, but even more for the consumers, the travelers. And the growth of new programs and certification bodies has made it even more difficult for consumers, the travelers, to understand the importance of specific labels and the processes behind certification. Imagine there's over 150 seals worldwide, so it's a real label jungle, and it's therefore fair to say that certification has probably limited strength from a B2C marketing perspective. So, and also they have a certification in the tourism industry has a small footprint. So there's only a small footprint of certified tourism products worldwide, more or less only 1% of tourism products companies have a sustainable tourism certification. Because much of the tourism industry is made of small and medium-sized enterprises, which have complex supply chains, making quality assurance and accreditation of certification bodies very difficult. Now, talking about difficulties, let's leave the challenges actually behind, and let's now look at the benefits of sustainable tourism practices. Customers increasingly want products and services that are environmentally friendly and which are being designed in a socially responsible way. We've seen the Booking.com research and other facts which I presented to you before. So I think anyone in the tourism industry, be it a tour operator, accommodation provider, an association, National Tourism Board, should see sustainable tourism as the right thing to do, and your success depends on it. And sustainability certification is, as I said before, it is increasingly becoming industry standard in Europe. And there's a clear tendency amongst European tour operators to select suppliers based on sustainability certification. In particular, that's the case in the UK and Germany. And interestingly, the tendency to get sustainability certification as a tour operator seems to be strongly established in Germany and Switzerland, whilst the Brits and the French operators seem to rely on own initiatives, projects, and policies. But another benefit of sustainable tourism practices and sustainable tourism certifications is the saving of costs. So you might, or you can have lower operating costs in your business. So you can reduce and optimize energy and reduce water consumption by implementing sustainable tourism practices. It can also lead to increased sales. For example, there was a survey of a biosphere, another sustainable tourism scheme, which I will present to you a bit later. And this survey found out that 70% of global travelers say they would book accommodation knowing it is sustainable. So it can really bring you more bookings. It can also lead to increase guest satisfactions. For example, an analysis by the TUI group has also shown that hotels with a sustainability certification report higher levels of guest satisfaction. It also can help you to mitigate risks. Consumers are showing increasing awareness and concern about issues such as plastic waste, human exploitation, with many taking to social media to express their concerns about the things they've experienced when traveling. So it's very quickly on social media, and that can destroy the image of your company very, very quickly. We need to be aware of. And sustainable tourism practices and policies, and especially certification, can help you to mitigate this risk or to better manage these risks. Certification can also lead to better community relations. So businesses that care about the well-being of their community enjoy more local support and can offer guests better local experiences. Sustainable tourism practices can also lead to more staff loyalty. So happier and more motivated staff. And these are just a few benefits I've presented here. Now, if we're now looking at specifically at sustainable tourism certification, we also see the benefit of having a clear framework for sustainable tourism practices. So all these practices are aligned with recognized sustainability standards. And these standards give us guidance, and also many of these schemes, they also provide training to comply with their set criteria. It is also a benchmarking tool, which provides you as a tour operator or as a tourism business or destination more credibility and industry recognition. Because with the certification logos and or the certificates which you can display, your achievement are recognized by the industry. They can help raise consumer awareness, of course, and many of the sustainable tourism certification bodies, they also provide marketing support, so where you can be listed on certain platforms, free listings on a searchable database, and for example on OTAs or online travel guides. Not all certification bodies do provide marketing or market access support. You would need to check on that. Also, credibility and transparency is one of the benefits of certification. The independent third-party auditor makes sure that tour operators truly comply with the set criteria. So it is credible and transparent. By implementing sustainable tourism practices, and even more by going through certification and process, you can identify cost-saving opportunities. So TUI has done an analysis of 330 hotels, and this analysis has found that certified hotels outperformed the non-certified ones. For example, with insights into their energy use, the hospitality businesses were able to identify where to implement lighting controls and efficient luminaires and cut lighting energy costs by up to 50%. Another example from a hotel from Switzerland, actually just 20 minutes from where I live, they have been measuring the food waste, and this has enabled this hotel to identify and cut 41% of their avoidable food waste, which led to savings of $28,000 in only 1 year. Just imagine it really, you can save money by implementing sustainability practices and by going for certifications. So this TUI study evaluated the environmental and social benefits of sustainability certifications across 330 hotels. And in summary, they found that compared to the non-certified properties, the eco-certified properties achieved 10% lower CO2 emission per guest night, 24% lower waste volume per guest night, 19% less fresh water use per guest night, 23% higher use of green energy, and 10%, almost 10% higher employment rate of national employees. Now, we have been talking about the benefits, and just before we've also talked a bit about the challenges. Let's look now at some downsides of sustainability certification, because I also would like to be transparent. In that case, there are also several downsides of certification. There's also some reasons why not to pursue certification. First of all, they have a limited scope. It is impossible to cover all aspects of sustainable business, and to report on them. And the standards are also limited to a certain set of most important sustainability criteria. Certification also comes with a significant time investment. A certification process is very time consuming. It requires reporting on many different sustainability criteria and validating sustainability practices through extensive documentation. Overall, it takes quite some time and money investment to achieve a certification, and smaller tour operators or smaller businesses often don't have the resources to invest time and money in the certification process, or to start the certification process even. And if you're new to sustainability, it takes even longer, more time to start from scratch. So you'll be busy creating policies, guidelines for your businesses. So that might be even more time consuming if you are new to sustainability. But the good thing, and something I would like to encourage you, I'm sure that the majority of you here in the audience is already doing something with regards to sustainability. So you might have already some policies in place. You might be already checking some of your suppliers with regards to how sustainable they are. So the companies I'm usually talking to, also from Ecuador, Peru, Colombia, etc., from Nepal, they don't start from scratch. And once they realize I'm already doing quite a lot, then they go like, okay, certification is not such a big thing. It can be a big thing, and it comes with time and money investment. But often you're already doing quite a lot for sustainability. Another thing, and I mentioned that before, there's also the limited understanding of consumers. So the travelers don't really understand the sustainable, don't really understand a lot about the certifications, the sustainable certification labels. It's unfortunately not yet where we are when it comes to organic certification in the food industry, for example. This is widely recognized and among the consumers, but in tourism we are still, it's still a long way to go, and it's also not yet top priority for the consumers. It's different from when we look at the tour operators at the B2B channel. So there it is even more a priority for them. Now, I often get asked from companies, what's the return on investment if I go for certification? And let's face it, your phone will not ring more because you say you're sustainable or because you have a sustainable tourism certification. But certified businesses, and here a bit to summarize what we've heard before, is certified businesses use less water, less waste, and less CO2. Certification boosts management and quality of your services, and certified businesses receive better reviews and ratings. You also have evidence for that. And happy guests and high ratings will bring you more visitors, so more money at the end of the day. At the moment, we still have a lack of data to show that certification warrants higher prices or increases the occupancy rate of your hotel or your other accommodation, or it brings you more clients for businesses. So we still have lack of data because certification in sustainable tourism does not have yet such a long history. And one thing I would like to point out is the decision to go for any specific certification should not be predominantly driven by a marketing and sales logic, but should be driven by an overall conviction that it will improve overall business management in the medium and longer term. So it will boost the quality of your services and improve your management system. And I just remember some years back, And I was working with South African companies, and we were supporting companies which had a certification, fair trade tourism certification, working with companies which did not have a certification. And we could clearly see that the certified companies were more professional, were better in the operational things, and also had better management process. So we can also say they were more successfully running their business. So this is also something great benefit of doing the certification, because by going through the certification process, you will improve your business automatically, and also consequently the service of your tours, the products, etc. Talking about certification schemes, we also need to briefly talk about the GSTC and its role, the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. Especially as I will present some GSTC recognized standards a bit later. Now, GSTC is the global accreditation organization for sustainable tourism certification, and the GSTC criteria provide assurance, transparency, and credibility for certification schemes in the tourism industry. These criteria were created to provide a common understanding throughout the world of sustainable tourism, and are the minimum, bear in mind the minimum that, and not the maximum, that any tourism should aspire to reach. These criteria are organized around 4 main themes: effective sustainability planning, maximizing social and economic benefits for the local community, enhancing cultural heritage, and reducing negative impacts to the environment. They have standards. They're national and global standards, and in some destinations you can choose from several options, and in some destinations, some countries, there's only one option or only one standard available, and some they don't even have one. Now, a growing number of certification standards have aligned their criteria with the GSTC's criteria, and GSTC is involved in certification, accreditation, and recognition. So GSTC recognized standards, which I will present to you afterwards, are sustainable tourism standards that adhere to and are equivalent to the GSTC criteria. This means that the GSTC criteria are included within the set of standards owned by a certification body, like TourCert or TravelLife. And the GSTC recognition does not ensure that the certification process is reliable, only that the set of standards used to certify includes the minimum elements to ensure sustainability. And a certification body that uses a GSTC recognized standard may apply for GSTC accreditation, which relates to the quality and neutrality of their certification process. So here's the process, just to have this difference between GSTC recognized standards and the accreditation clear. There's much more information you find on the GSTC website if you're interested in that. Now, here just to show you what sustainability criteria GSTC has. So at the moment, there are 2 sets of GSTC criteria. So we have the GSTC industry criteria, which has 2 sets of suggested performance indicators. So we have the GSTC criteria for hotels, and we have it for tour operators, and the other one is the GSTC criteria for destinations. And something new could come is the GSTC MICE for the GSTC criteria for the MICE sector, so the meeting, incentive, conferences sector, and also the GSTC criteria for attractions. And currently, they're working on these criteria, and they are developing these criteria and standards, and they should be published and available as of next year. And another side remark here, because we are not talking about climate change and how it is integrated in the standards, more and more climate change aspects are integrated in the sustainability schemes, in certification standards, and also it's a part of the GSTC criteria. Right, I would like to give you a guideline on how to select a good certification scheme for you, how to choose the most suitable certification standard for you. It's your decision, and of course it depends on the type of your business, your target market. So if you want to target the US market or the local market or the South American market, your decision might be completely different. But I think all these points will help you to decide. It doesn't, no matter which target market you want to go for and what type of business you are. First of all, have a look at what footprint does this certification standard or scheme have in my destination? Is there other companies which are certified already by this label? If there's no certification, certified companies in Peru, but many in Colombia and in Ecuador. So think about it. Maybe these scheme will be available soon in Peru, for example. And also check if they have market access support. So some standards, they do also support you in marketing. So they have platforms where you can be listed. I'll show you that a bit later. So this also helps you to market your company to end consumers or to the travel trade. The type of certification, do they offer certification for my type of business? So some certification standards or schemes, they have different, they offer different certification for different type of tourism businesses, for example, for accommodation and community-based tourism, tour operators, etc. And there's some which only offer certification for tour operators, like Travel Life for tour operators. This is also something you need to check. Transparency. Are the certification criteria published online? That's also not the case for all of them. Some do publish, and many do publish the criteria online, so that makes it also easy for you to download and to do a bit more research, and also check if they're fully available for free. Sustainability, also something to look at. Are they triple bottom line? So do they cover all aspects of sustainability, so economy, the environmental, and also the social and cultural aspects? Or are they just focusing on the environmental? So are they just for the green and focusing on the green aspects? Is there a third-party assessment, so a third party which audits your company, your business? Is the audit done on site or just virtual? This, I mean, the GSTC criteria, the GSTC recognized standards, they all have a third-party audit, of course. But if you're looking at other certification schemes which are not GSTC recognized, it's a bit, it's important that you look at, okay, do they do an on-site audit, or how is the audit done? Is there a third party who checks, or is it just the standard owner who checks that you are that you comply with the criteria? That's a difference. Is the third party verification, is it transparent? That's something you need to check. Global recognition, is the standard GSTC accredited, or is the standard recognized? I think if you go for GSTC recognized standards, you're safe, that's fine. And otherwise, of course, you can go for another label which is not GSTC recognized. There's also many good labels, but take this checklist and go through and then decide which certification scheme you would like to go for. So here, just one slide about where you can find more information. So there's a Destinate Tourism and Certification Quick Finder, and also the International Trade Centers standards map, where you find more information about the many different standards, not only about the GSTC recognized standards. Well, now I have selected few certification schemes, labels, which I think are relevant, might be relevant for you as tourism business, businesses in Peru. And as I said before, they are relevant and widely recognized and known in Europe, and they also have a footprint in Latin America. Not all of them have yet a footprint in Peru. And all of them are GSTC recognized and have an international scope. The standards are published online, so easily accessible for you. And they also have on-site third-party verification. So you already tick many boxes of the checklist I've just presented. So the first one is Biosphere, and Biosphere certifies destinations and tourism companies. So individual companies, chains, and also groups. And Biosphere links a business's sustainable actions and initiatives with the 2030 Agenda and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It has more than 1,100 businesses certified worldwide, and it has international reach, including Germany, UK, and several South American countries. They have an own representation office in Colombia. So far, only one hotel is certified in Peru, and they have different levels. So we also see that in many cases, certification standards have different levels. So you can start at a low level, and then you can process and proceed to a higher level. So they have the committed gold, platinum level for destinations, and the committed and certified for companies. Cost-wise, I think that's also interesting for you. It's quite affordable, starting at 360 euros per year. And then, of course, it depends on the type and the size of your business. So Biosphere is actually suitable for any business, whether you are self-employed, an SME, or a large company, and they automatically design a catalog of work for your business reality from the moment you register with them. Now, EarthCheck, maybe you have heard of this certification standard. It's the world's leading, or one of the leading certifying bodies, world's leading certification, consulting, and advisory bodies or group. And EarthCheck has a sustainability certification and programs for tourism businesses, hotels, destinations, governments, developers, and building designers, terrestrial and marine parks, and also events. So they have a huge variety of things, of type of businesses. They certify 1,200 businesses and more are certified worldwide. They're more a bit for the higher end accommodations and resorts, like for nice eco lodges, and the main business is really for the, well, I would say also for the accommodations. Again, they have different levels. GSTC recognize the standard, and it's even GSTC accredited certification body. At the moment, there's no certified businesses in Peru, I found. They have quite a big footprint in Central America, specifically in Mexico and in the Dominican Republic. But it's also very well known in the European Union. It's a bit also a bit more, one of the more expensive ones. It's starting from 1,000 euros per year. Green Globe, well known in the European Union for certifying accommodations. And the membership rates are different depending on the size of your hotel, so the size of the rooms, or for a business, the number of employees. Also international, working in over 70 countries. They're also mostly for the higher end hotels and accommodations. More than 500 businesses are certified so far. Again, different levels. There's no certified businesses in Peru, but they have a footprint in Ecuador and in Brazil and other Central American countries. So something you could look at, even though there's no, at the moment, certified businesses in Peru, I found so far. It's a bit more affordable than the EarthCheck certification, starting from 650 euros, but it goes up to 4,500 euros. And the annual membership fee does not include independent audit fees. And they also have a Green Globe Academy, which is a web-based e-learning tool specifically developed to study all aspects of sustainability. Preferred by Nature, it's a big organization and comes from a culture certification. So for example, the Rainforest Alliance tourism certification part is done by Preferred by Nature now. And they have a big footprint in certifying hotels, and they're now increasingly certifying tour operators worldwide too. They are specifically focusing on Latin America, so I think it's also an interesting standard for you to look at. It's as well. It's also GSTC recognized, and I found also the contact person for you. If you're interested in getting this certification, you can reach out to Sergio. He's the sustainable travel specialist of Preferred by Nature. They have an office in Peru, and already 4 companies are certified in Peru, and many more companies certified in Bolivia, and they've quite and Argentina and other Central American countries. So they have quite already a footprint in sustainable in Latin America. So really something you can look at. And the interesting thing here is that they offer dual certification with Travel Life for tour operators and Travel Life for accommodations. And I present you these 2 schemes just afterwards. So they have decided to go for strategic partnerships because they have realized that, let's say, 80% of their criteria are similar or the same. So that's why they have this agreement with Travel Life for tour operators and Travel Life for accommodation. So all tour operators with a valid Preferred by Nature certification can opt for Travel Life for tour operators certification. And they recognize the validity of the Preferred by Nature certificate, and they accept the results of the last audit, which is carried out at the company. So that's something very interesting to look at. So you get somehow 2 audits for the price of 1. And you get, of course, you have bigger outreach with having like a Preferred by Nature label and Travel Life seal, for example. And this is also a good example of how they do marketing support. So they have this bookdifferent.com platform. It's an OTA where all certified Preferred by Nature accommodations, the accommodations, not the tour operators, can be listed under the greenest choice category. As I said, Travel Life for tour operators, this standard integrates both management and performance criteria, and it's based on leading international sustainability and CSR standards and guidelines. And so Travel Life, and they have different levels, and it's interesting that Travel Life partners or Travel Life engaged status, that's something easy to achieve. So any little tour operator can do it, and this is just for tour operators, not for accommodations or destinations or any other business. But it's easy to start the journey, and you have, I would say, to get partner status, which is the second level, is you can have like 6 months to get to that stage. It's a desk audit, so it's a virtual audit, and it's not an outside audit, and that only is done when you have the certification level, or when you get the certification level. They have 100 criteria to comply with for to get to the partner status, and a certain amount of criteria are compulsory to comply with. For example, how you run the office, and you need to have a sustainability policy. They also help you to write the policy. They have templates, etc. And some criteria of these 100 criteria are not applicable. So just some of them are compulsory out of the 100. And if you want to go for the certified level, there's like 200 criteria to comply with. For example, how you work with your supply chain, etc. So there the focus is a bit more on the supply chain, how do you check the hotels you're working with, etc. They have a footprint in Peru, which I think makes it interesting for you. 8 companies with partner award in Peru, and they have also a bit of a footprint in neighboring countries. So we have also Colombia, Ecuador, where we also have Travel Life certified, or companies with Travel Life, with the Travel Life seal, being partner or certification level. It is quite affordable. It starts already at 200 euros per year for small companies, and for like 400 euros for larger companies. So I think it's quite an interesting option for you to look at. They also provide you will get access to the Travel Life certification tool to start working step by step towards compliance with the certification standard. Right, and here you also see the contact person, Antonio. You can reach out to him. Just one side remark talking about Travel Life certification, Travel Life for tour operators. There was a big project in the European Union, the SUSTO project, which was funded by the European Union. And so there were like more than 600 SMEs from 35 European countries. They have been selected to participate in this program. And actually, this SUSTO program supported these SMEs towards achieving Travel Life certification. So you find many more Travel Life certified companies now than just this 80 which were certified or had partner status before. So this also is something. The message is that these tour operators, like these many tour operators which have participated in the SUSTO program, are now even more aware of the sustainability issues, etc. So, and many of them are now having this Travel Life certification standard. And it was like, yeah, the focus countries, they included the Netherlands, Germany, Finland, Portugal, and Croatia. You can have a look at the list of companies which were participating in the program. Yeah. Then we have Travel Life for accommodation, not to confuse with the Travel Life for tour operators. It's a different thing, same name, but different certification institution, certified institution, UK-based. It's the certifying institution is the UK Travel Association, ABTA. It's internationally recognized and focusing purely on accommodations, specifically, I would say sun and beach hotels, the chains, the resorts more might not be so relevant for you, but I'm not sure who is in the audience. But they also have a set of criteria for micro properties, medium and large hotels. So maybe you can have a look at it. There is a small footprint of certified businesses in Peru and in Argentina. And I would say it's also widely recognized or known in the European Union. For example, the TUI resorts, they are Travel Life certified, etc. So the consumer also might realize this or recognize this label a bit more than others. They also have a platform where the certified companies can be listed. So these Stay Better Places, this consumer website is also interesting because there you get marketing support, market access, which is also interesting. And if you're interested to get more information, you can reach out to Susanna, which is your contact person in the UK. And yeah, the fees are a bit higher than the Travel Life for tour operators fee, starting at 640. Right, Tour Cert, I'm sure also many of you have heard of this certification scheme. It is especially well known, very well known, I would say, even in the German-speaking countries, so Switzerland, Austria, Germany. And they have quite a footprint in Peru. I'm very happy to see that. So almost 20 certified companies, so the footprint is bigger than Travel Life for tour operators in Peru. And we also see that many Ecuadorian companies have this certification. It is also quite an easily accessible certification standard. The interesting thing is that this certification is for accommodations, tour operators, destinations, and communities. So not only for tour operators, like the Travel Life for tour operators. So this is something very interesting for you. So also you as a community can get this certification. It's a bit more expensive than others, starting at 700. If you would like to get this certification, you can reach out to these two ladies, Maria Eugenia and Geraldine, which can help you with getting more information, do the audits, the trainings, etc. And here you also see like an overview of the process. You can have a look at it later, because I would like to shortly inform you about the Long Run's Global Ecosphere Retreats standards. That's the best standard for private protected areas. They have recently become GSTC recognized, and the standard is applicable to tourism-related destinations who wish to be recognized as global ecosphere retreats. Therefore, the standards is run in a membership organization of nature-based tourism businesses committed to driving sustainability. And this global community is growing. Tourism businesses that own and manage and influence areas of ecological importance. So it's for those nature-based tourism businesses that are exceptionally motivated to be a force for the greater good and want to be the best in sustainable tourism. It's for nature reserves and conservation areas. It's a bit more expensive, but it's also more for like the reserves or the nature reserves and conservation areas, not just like one small accommodation or smaller tour operator. Green Key. This certification scheme is for the hospitality sector. It's well known in the European tourism industry, and Green Key has no footprint in Peru, but a footprint in Central America and in Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago. So maybe something to look at if you are a hostel, a hotel. They also certified restaurants, campsites, holiday parks, and conference centers, etc. So that's something to look at. So, and if you are interested in this certification, you should contact Green Key International. I've also put the link in that slide. Smaller businesses only need to pay like something like 500 euros, and of course, the bigger you are, the higher are the costs. That's something to look at if you are an accommodation provider or a restaurant, something like that. Even though, no footprint yet in Peru, but well known in Europe. B Corp is not a GSTC recognized standard, but this is something you might have heard of before. B Corp is a relatively new concept or initiative, especially in the tourism industry, I would say. And it's for companies which want to highlight or position themselves as social businesses. B Corp is not tourism specific. It's known in other sectors. For example, recently, Nestle has become a B Corp certified corporation, which has also got them quite some criticism. And B Corps are companies which undergo a strict certification process to improve their social and environmental performance. So they don't just say they're good businesses or socially responsible businesses. They're committed to use business as a force for good, and they're willing to have their practices independently audited by a third party, and to make the results transparent, so you can see all the scores of any B Corp published on their website. Now, MICE sector, I'm not sure if we have some MICE companies in the audience. ISO certification, EarthCheck certification, Green Globe certification are something to look at. And as I said, GSTC is working on a standard for the MICE sector. And before we come to the end of this session, I would like to quickly share something with you. I did an interview some months ago with the CSR manager of Asiareisen, the tour operator from Austria, which is operating worldwide. And let's listen to what she has to tell us about how important sustainability certifications are for them.
So maybe I think I haven't mentioned it before. For our partners, we want them to have a certification that is GSTC recognized, just to make sure that these certifications do actually contribute to the sustainable development of the tourism industry, and that these certifications are trustworthy in a way. Because for me, there's so many great certifications. There's national certifications, and there are hundreds of them, and these are all great initiatives. But for me as well, it is not really possible to check all of them. So it's really great to have GSTC to kind of focus on a core of certifications that I know they have a high standard that has to be fulfilled. They have audits where someone actually goes to this place and checks what the businesses are doing. So this also gives me some comfort to focus on this group of certifications. Yeah.
Right. So she can if you have a certification, GSTC recognized certification, she can tick the box. And there's many more tour operators which are really happy and which might, decide to work with you instead of someone else. If you have such a certification, she can tick the box. She's reassured if you have this certification. Otherwise, it gets a bit complicated for her. So I think she's given you some more reason to start the certification process.
So maybe
briefly, I've mentioned the Travel Sustainable program of Booking.com. It's also a new initiative they have launched in 2021. And because more than 70% of the guests are more likely to book a property that has sustainability practices in place, they've started this initiative. And this program is still in its pilot phase. And you can actually get access to this program or to this badge by answering to sustainability practices questions on the extranet. It's for accommodation providers only, so not for other businesses. And so if you score high enough, you can get one sustainable, there's like 3 levels, so you get to level 1, 2, or 3, and also even there's like the certified level. So you on Booking.com website, you will be marked as a sustainable company, which helps you, which will in the end, I'm sure, bring you more bookings. So that's a really, really good initiative. If you haven't heard of it, have a look at it. If you're listed on Booking.com, also you find much more information on that. But just having mentioned that, if you're a destination, I'm not sure if you have many destinations here, just to mention green destinations. It's a certification which is specifically, it's only for destinations. It's for like small destinations, large destinations, municipalities, islands, regions, protected areas. It's a GSTC recognized standard, and they have quite a large footprint in Peru. They have seen also company or destinations which have the Green Destination Award. They have different levels again. So that's something to look at if you are a destination. Something I really would strongly recommend you, because it's quite well known in Europe. So the Green Destination Seal we see quite often. So something to look at. And because destinations are also full of many tiny little businesses, the Green Destinations have come up with a program, the Good Travel Program, and the Good Travel Seal. And this is for the many little businesses in a destination. And the certification is available to all types of businesses in the tourism supply chain, not for inbound, not for DMC, but for example, the restaurants, the takeaways, activity providers, dive centers, small community-based cruise operators, car rentals. So they all can go for this Good Travel Seal. And there's also Good Travel Seal Plus, and the Plus seal includes more criteria, and it's only for the accommodation providers. But the Good Travel Seal Basic is for many more businesses, and something to look at if you're a small business in a destination. And you can also go for it without your destination is going for a green destination certification. You can do that on your own, and it's quite affordable. Prices start from €150 for micro enterprises. Have a look at the sources here. Now, there's many small businesses or micro businesses in a destination, and sometimes you can also ask yourself, okay, what can I do? I can't afford certification. I don't have the resources. What can I do? What alternatives do you have? And here's an example from Destination Tahar from Tunisia. And they developed code of conducts together with the different stakeholders in the destination. So they're working together, and they collectively were talking about that. So they developed this code of conduct for accommodation providers. So simple code of conducts. You can click on the link here and you see the code of conduct. It's not something very, very difficult. Of course, you need to get all the stakeholders which are relevant on board and in the boat. And you can develop this code of conducts, and the accommodation providers can display these code of conducts in their property. You can develop code of conducts for visitors and also for the tour operators. So it's simple things we can do, and all of you can do. Here, information about the certification process. I will not go through it step by step. Just to summarize, the certification process, including preparation time, normally takes between 4 to 6 months from the time the candidate organization submits the formal application until the final certification decision is communicated. So give yourself some 6 months at least. And these are the certification processes, which are more or less quite similar to all certification schemes. Something we also get asked very often, how much does it cost? And of course, time and cost vary a lot, depending on the standard you go for, but more or less give yourselves at least a year and a budget of around 1,000 to 2,500 euros or dollars, including this time of your employees, the resources, etc. And of course, it depends on the size of on the type of your business and also the size of your business. Sometimes the fee includes the audit, and sometimes you need to add like some 500 euros for the auditor. Right, and we are at the end of this session already, and as I already thought at the beginning, we won't have time to cover this last part, but I will share these slides with you, and you'll find a lot of information about how you can start the sustainability journey, how you can start implementing sustainability practices. Because I really think this is important. Everybody of us can start the sustainability journey. So you can start developing a sustainability policy, which can be very simple. And you find links, example, templates in the next slides. You define a program, you define action, and also important that you monitor and you evaluate on progress. And that you also communicate the impacts you've had. Also, I'm sharing in this presentation, in these slides, like an example of impact and sustainability reports. You can just, I'm not saying just copy paste it, but you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to start from scratch. There's many companies which have done these reports, and you can learn from them. You can use these as an example and develop your own policies and your own reports, for example. And always think about what is the very least I as a business can be doing. And if I don't go for a certification, fine, perfectly fine, because it's not the right thing for everybody. It might be too time consuming, too expensive, other reasons. So I'm not saying you must go for certification, but start the sustainability journey. And this is like in small steps, you can start it and you can progress and improve. Develop a small code of conduct for restaurants, for guides or accommodation in your destination. That's something you as a destination you can do. So there are small things all of us we can do. And having said this, I'm giving back to CANATUR because now I'm at the end of this session. I know it has been a lot of information. I'm looking forward to see some questions. And I see most people have still stayed in the session, although I've gone a bit over the time. I hope it has been interesting for you. And I hope we might have another session because there's so much more to talk. And so we all should start the sustainability journey. Is there some question, Maria Isabel or Erika? I don't hear.
Miriam, Marisol, para que pueda dar lectura a las preguntas. Gracias.
I think Maria Isabel is still mute. I think you need to unmute her. Erika.
A ver, Marisabel, intenta de nuevo, por favor.
Ok, sí, gracias. Great. Thank you so much, Miriam, for all the information. It was sure very interesting for all the participants here. Maybe we can go through very quickly some of the questions that are on the chat. So, for example, Elena del Castillo Perez, she asked if you could please comment about one of the mentioned challenges resulting in the weak market relevance for certified companies from a B2C perspective. So I think this is when you were talking about the downsides of certifications. What do you think about certifications from a B2C perspective?
Yeah, I think it was about the challenges. Let me just bring up this slide once again. I hope, yeah, 1 second, let me share my screen again. There we go. Let's have the question again. So I think this is really the B2C. We need to differentiate between the B2B, so the trade, the tourism trade perspective. So we talk about tour operators, travel agencies, other stakeholders, and the B2C, so the end consumer, the travel agent, the traveler. And the thing is that in tourism, we don't have the case yet as we have in organic certification, where it's widely known. We all go for fair trade or organic certification. We know about that, the end consumers. In tourism, it's different. It's still a long road to go. And that's one of the biggest challenge, I would say, that there's so many labels, and some are well known are better known to the end consumer, some eco hotel certification or organic hotel labels, for example, in Austria, and they are known. But in general, the consumer is not yet aware about the benefits of sustainability labels in the tourism industry. And that's a big challenge, because we see that the tour operators, the trade is more and more asking for sustainability certification. But on the other hand, we have the consumer, the traveler, which is not yet asking so much for certification, but they want to have a choice of sustainable products. So we have this the sustainable travel sustainable program of, for example, Booking.com, which is a great initiative, which is exactly going to that direction, targeting the on one side giving more choice to the traveler and raising awareness for sustainable tourism, sustainable properties, for example. So this is really a challenge. And also, there's a small footprint of certified companies or certified tourism products worldwide, which is just 1%. And there's different reason. One, this label jungle, consumers are not yet aware. Certification still involves a lot of, money, time, resources. So not so many companies are certified with internationally recognized labels. Not sure if I have clearly answered that question.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but it's something to keep in mind, right? So it's, so mainly all certifications now are mainly B2B, which is actually the market, right, that we are in. It's a B2B business.
Exactly. And it always depends on your business. What type of business do you have, and what is your target market? Do you get access to the end consumer through B2B, so through tour operators, or do you only go B2B? So if it really depends on the type of business and the target market. And for example, the US, if the US is your target market, you might not need a certification. But if you want to go for the European market, I think you should and could consider certification, getting certified.
Yeah, so we have another question from Daisy Angeles. In Peru, we have a large group of small tourism companies that have a local and small-scale tourism operation. How to promote the insertion of sustainability as a transversal axis in this type of business when the level of reach and impact is very limited in the destination and its market segment used to decide its purchase mainly by the price of the services and not by the sustainability that the company promotes. Yeah, so I think this goes a little further from certifications, and it's definitely an issue here, well, I guess in all over Latin America, right? Not only in Peru. So what are your thoughts?
I'm just thinking that, yeah, we see this challenge in also in Colombia and other, in Ecuador, where I'm also working. It's difficult, and I think it also requires like collaboration from different stakeholders, so from the tourism ministry, for example, from the National Tourism Board, to join forces. And there's also, for example, ways of where, I mean, what, for example, green destinations do, or other certification labels they do, and they work with government, and then they launch, for example, the label or the certification scheme in a certain country. And that helps, of course, also to raise awareness for even the smaller companies. And then they might also develop like standards or code of conduct for the smaller companies in a destination. Let me just, because it's quite a complex question. Yeah, I mean, and of course, international certifications, they often don't have a big footprint in certain countries, which we have seen that some of the labels presented don't even have a footprint in Peru, or not yet. And there's also different reasons for that.
Yeah.
Price, yeah, and of course, price is a very important decision-making factor. I agree. Still, but I also would say not in all markets. And I think it's also changing that people, look at the end consumers also more and more, happy to pay a bit more for the sustainable option. We saw that like 40%, I mean, it's not specifically for Peru or Latin America, but 40% of, I think it was from the Booking.com survey, they would pay more for a sustainable option. That's like an indication, which I think is interesting and something we need to bear in mind. And I think it's changed. And of course, we have the crisis. It's post-pandemic. People, everything gets more expensive. That's also happening at the same time. But I think people also, are more and more, ready to invest or to pay a bit more for the sustainability option. Of course, I mean, the service is also super important. It doesn't mean that you can lower your service, but it's really something you also need to explain to the end consumers or to the tour operators. And sometimes, I mean, I also see it with when we talk with tour operators from Nepal, from Ecuador, they say, well, you know, this tour operator from Germany, he wants to lower the price. I can't really, if I lower the price, I need to compromise on quality. And I'm a sustainable company. I've certified with Tours, Travel whatsoever. And then you can tell them, look, and this is a real case. They're like, okay, look, I'm a sustainable company, and if I lower the price, can't pay unfair prices anymore. So let's keep the price, and then and I can also ensure that the local communities benefit, and I can pay fair prices to my employees, to the guides, to the drivers, etc. Because otherwise, it's not sustainable anymore. And if you yourself call yourself sustainable and responsible, we should not compromise that. So you cannot have this type of discussions with certified tour operators from Europe if you want to lower the price. So that's something, you can have these discussions.
Yeah, so maybe we have 1 more minute for another question. Is there any other experience besides Costa Rica where the government promotes a public certification in sustainable tourism that include the most of the tourism companies in its territory?
Yeah, we have several initiatives, for example, also from Slovenia, for example. I also can include a slide about that. So there's like governments, and not only Costa Rica, it's a great example, where they really work with the certification scheme, like green destinations, in the case of Slovenia, where they promote, where they include certification of not the whole, but like where they encourage certification. They come up with their own certification scheme. So they have like their feel Slovenia a brand they have developed. That's a great thing. I can also share information on that. Actually, I wanted to originally include information on that, but was not enough time. Also, if you look at the Nordic and Baltic countries, they have great initiatives where government is promoting certifications. So it's different from country to country. Sometimes they develop their own certification scheme, and governments can also work with GSTC, with the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, to bringing their own certification. For example, in the case of Turkey, they've now launched a big initiative and they're collaborating with GSTC. So that's something to look at.
Yeah, great. So one last question. In your opinion, is there any post-COVID approach of certification schemes to reach company, destinations, and consumers? This is a question from Sandra Doig.
Yeah, is there any post-COVID approach of certification schemes to reach companies?
So is there a difference after COVID about how certifications are approaching companies?
I would
say maybe certifications are a little more important or more, I don't know, useful after COVID.
Yes, we can say that. I think topic of sustainability has been important before COVID. I think it has, what we can see, it is even more important than after COVID. And having said that, that also involves like people are more and more increasingly aware about sustainability seals, especially if you look at the B2B channel, like the trade, which is really, more and more, increasingly aware of these issues. And but I can't say if certification schemes approach companies or reach companies in a different way. That I'm not really sure if there's a difference.
Okay, great. Thank you, Miriam. I think that's all for today. Erika, nosotros con gusto podemos compartir la presentación con ustedes para que quienes lo soliciten puedan recibir toda la información completa. Y nada, eso es todo por nuestro lado, Erika.
Muchísimas gracias, Miriam. Muchas gracias por tu presentación, por toda la información y los datos que nos has brindado. De hecho, son muy útiles para todos los empresarios que nos están acompañando hoy día en la sala. Gracias, Víctor y Marisabel, también por todo el apoyo y el soporte que han realizado para concretar esta importante conferencia. Y a todos los participantes, muchísimas gracias por su tiempo, por acompañarnos y los esperamos en nuestras futuras capacitaciones. Que tengan un buen día. Gracias.
Luego.
Gracias a todos. Muchas gracias. Que tengan un buen día.
Gracias, Miriam.
Muchas gracias.